Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa, France 24's program focused on the continent. I'm Charlie James and here's what's coming up. The largest protests yet. Algeria's capital packed with demonstrators demanding the immediate resignation of ailing President Bouteflika. Mozambique takes a direct hit from Cyclone Idai. More than 500,000 people have been cut off from power, roads, and communications. And Benin is trying to protect its borders and tourism industry from encroaching jihadists in neighboring nations. We bring you a France 24 report on the efforts. Hundreds of thousands of people protested in Algeria on Friday, the biggest turnout against President Abdelaziz Bouteflika since demonstrations began last month. Now, attempts to appease protesters have failed, and they are now demanding Bouteflika hand over power to a younger generation. This after the 82-year-old agreed not to run again, but then canceled upcoming elections. Clement Bonnereau has the latest.
They wanted an election without Bouteflika. Now they have Bouteflika without an election. Celebrations over the president's decision not to seek a fifth term have quickly given way to skepticism and anger among Algerians. Hundreds of thousands have once again taken to the streets, protesting for the fourth Friday in a row.
This fourth protest is to say no to all the changes that have been made recently. To say to this government and to this system that it's over for them. That's it.
He said in his last statement that he's listened to the people, therefore he's no longer running for a fifth term. But today we're saying no to the extension of his fourth term.
President Abdelaziz Bouteflika announced on Monday he was no longer seeking a fifth term in office, but that he was postponing the presidential election in April. The 82-year-old leader says this is to allow for consultation on a number of political reforms. But critics have condemned the move, saying it's a trick to divide Algerians.
I actually thank Bouteflika for keeping Algerians mobilized and bringing us together.
Bouteflika says new elections will be held before the end of 2019, but that means he could stay in office for another year. The president was first elected in 1999 and has rarely been seen in public since suffering a stroke 6 years ago. Critics say he's simply too old and sick to preside over a country where half of the population is under 30.
Analysis is underway on the black boxes recovered from the Ethiopian Airlines crash. French aviation experts are handling the heavily damaged data and voice recorders. Meanwhile, mourning family members continue to make painful visits to the scene of the accident. Some are angry about what they see as a lack of transparency. On Thursday, relatives stormed out of a meeting with airline representatives. Next to Mozambique, where overnight Tropical Cyclone Idai made landfall. The coastal city of Beira was directly struck, leaving 500,000 people without power and cut off by flooded roads. The country was already struggling to cope with days of flash floods that killed dozens of people. Laurent Bestacheur shows us the storm's impact.
Collapsed buildings, billboards, and power cables. The city of Beira in Mozambique was left without power and communication after the devastating passage of Tropical Cyclone Idai. The storm made landfall on Thursday, causing massive material damage and injuring multiple people. The roofs were also blown off several buildings by winds reaching 170 kilometers per hour.
I saw a woman getting hit by debris. It's not safe for people to walk outside. The situation is very chaotic.
The storm followed days of heavy rains in Mozambique, where massive floods claimed over 60 lives and displaced some 17,000 people. Neighboring Malawi was also hit by severe flash floods, which left over 80,000 people homeless. Emergency relief camps opened by authorities there struggled to deal with the influx of refugees and were experiencing shortages of food and medical supplies.
Since we arrived at the camp, we only received maize, flour, and beans, which we shared, but it's not enough. We need more because there are a lot of us, and the food is in short supply.
Cyclone Idai is expected to continue to wreak havoc in Beira and its surroundings until Sunday, and many in Malawi fear it will make its way towards them next. Both Mozambique and Malawi are among the world's poorest countries, making them particularly vulnerable to flooding and other extreme weather conditions.
20 people are now confirmed dead after the school building collapse in Nigeria, and most of the victims are children. The Lagos State Health Commissioner provided the death toll Friday, one day after rescue efforts ended. Some anguished families protested that decision, continuing to sift through the rubble for any signs of their children. It is still unclear exactly how many people were in the building at the time of the accident. Gambia's president, ADAMA Barrow, has fired his vice president. This is the second time he's replaced the position since taking office in 2017. His ministers of Trade and Agriculture were also sacked. Barrow immediately appointed his health minister to also act as his new vice president. No reason was given for the move. A statement summed up the decision as presidential prerogative. Turning now to Benin. It's a country that relies heavily on nature tourism. But jihadist attacks in neighboring Burkina Faso have raised the risk of armed groups disrupting its stability. In this France 24 report, our team looked at how Benin is working to secure its borders and protect its parks.
This nature sanctuary stretches over nearly 5,000 square kilometers, nearly 50 times the city of Paris. Penjari Park is the Beninese section of the largest wildlife reserve in West Africa. It extends to Niger and Burkina Faso.
On the other side, it's Burkina Faso. We're trying to secure it so that people don't cross over here.
Surveillance measures have been stepped up since terror threats have increased and gotten closer, and especially since the other side of the river has been classified as a red zone by Western governments.
We're here to stop poaching and any other threat that may happen.
Ground patrols are reinforced with aerial surveillance. However, tourists haven't yet been put off by the risks. Thousands of wildlife lovers continue to flock here.
We come from France, and unfortunately France has been affected. Many people have taken on the view that we must keep on living.
African Parks, an NGO specialising in the conservation of protected areas, has run the sanctuary since 2017. All monitoring operations are supervised in real time from this control room.
The park is managed better than ever. It's probably the most protected border in the entire region. Of course, there's a great threat in northern Burkina Faso on the border with Mali. But we think that what's happening in the southeast of Burkina Faso is the same old banditry that got a makeover.
Communities living around the park have been instructed to report any foreign presence. Here at Materi, Burkina Faso lies about 20 kilometers away down this track. Using human intelligence or informers is essential.
We've installed a civil security system in several areas to keep watch for the security units along the corridor.
Authorities from both sides of the border are currently in talks after Porto Novo asked its neighbour to allow Beninese park rangers to expand their circuits. To strengthen border security, they're hoping to be allowed to patrol a 10-kilometre stretch inside Burkina Faso.
Finally, a new artist is making waves in South Africa, both for her work and because she's a pig. Pigcasso is her name. And before you laugh, take a look at her work, which is selling for thousands of dollars.
Everyone calls her Pigcasso. This sow was rescued from an abattoir and brought to this animal sanctuary in South Africa's Western Cape region. Her owner explained that many objects, including some paintbrushes, were lying around in her newly built barn when she noticed something unusual.
She basically ate or destroyed everything except these paintbrushes. And I thought, gosh, maybe there's something in there because it was really strange that she loved them so much. And it just took a bit of positive reinforcement. And to be honest, it wasn't long before she was picking them up, going towards the canvas and creating these amazing masterpieces that are now sold all over the world.
Her paintings can sell for almost $4,000. The proceeds go to animal welfare. One of Picasso's artworks was turned into a watch face for Swiss watchmaker Swatch. The watch is sold $120. A clever branding coup, according to this marketing consultant.
The fact that an animal that we see as a means to an end, a pig, bacon, sausages, all of that, has now become this phenomenon in a whole different space is really cool, because that means that there is an appetite for that kind of thing. There's a desire to see different things.
Picasso's art was taken on tour last year. Her work was shown in the UK, France, Germany and the Netherlands. When she's done painting, she likes to relax like most pigs by taking a nap in a nice mud bath.
If only all our pets could be that talented. That's all for this edition of Eye on Africa, but do stay with us. My colleague James Creedon is up next with the news.